Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Copper Jacket TV. So we've got some breaking news from the Supreme Court in regards to a major Second Amendment case that was just conferenced Friday and denied today. We need to talk about this one. It has some big implications, but some people are saying that it's not really that big of a surprise. So let's go ahead and talk about what's going on. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about what's going on here. Now, if you're watching this video and you've not yet subscribed, consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, leave a comment down below and let me know what you guys think about what the Supreme Court did here. So the Supreme Court just denied cert for a major Second Amendment case called Antonyuk v. James. This is a case that deals with carry out of the state of New York. Essentially, New York's Bruen response that made carry even more difficult. So as I'm sure you're aware, in the Supreme Court's Bruen decision, they said that states could no longer use good cause or just cause in order to qualify somebody to get a concealed carry permit. Well, New York decided to play semantics and said that instead, you know what, we're just going to call it good moral character, which essentially turns out to be the exact same thing. Now, like I was saying before, not everybody was surprised by this decision. Everybody was disappointed. I'm disappointed. But not everybody was surprised because the Supreme Court doesn't typically like to take interlocutory cases. That means a case that is not really yet finished at the lower court level. Typically, they come in on a preliminary injunction basis. The Supreme Court looks at that and they would like to wait until there's a final opinion in the case. So this was an interlocutory case. They decided that they weren't going to take it, but that also means that this case is not yet over. This is not like the final step. The Supreme Court didn't take it, and so, we're done. Basically, the lower courts are still going to continue on with this case. Once there's a final order, it can then go back up to the Supreme Court. As a matter of fact, Chuck Michel, who is the president of the California Rifle and Pistol Association, wrote an interesting post on X earlier that kind of highlights that point, where he writes, "Breaking, we are extremely disappointed, although not surprised, that the Antonyuk sensitive places cases out of New York was denied cert today. While we are aware this court disfavors interlocutory Second Amendment cases, i.e. appeals from preliminary injunctions, we were hoping they would make an exception given the prior GVR in Antonyuk." Now, a GVR is a grant, vacate, remand. That means that the Supreme Court has previously granted, vacated the lower court's decision, and then remanded it back down to the lower court in this case. So people were kind of hoping that maybe given that they would actually accept it. This unfortunate outcome does at least tell us we were probably right not to seek cert in May v. Bonta, which is CRPA's sensitive places case, and instead pursue final judgment, which we are actively doing now. So again, this case is not over. It'll probably end up back at the Supreme Court once again, but the Supreme Court eventually needs to take this case because this affects more than just New York. As a matter of fact, California tried the same thing. They tried to change their good cause or just cause into good moral character, and then they ended up changing that. But I'm guessing if the Supreme Court ends up not taking this case in the end, and we end up losing at the lower court level, California and other states like California and New York will probably just switch from good cause or just cause to good moral character and continue to deny people just simply based on that. So again, this is a question that needs to be answered by the Supreme Court. As a matter of fact, my buddy Kostas Morris, also of the CRPA, posted a clip of their brief to the Supreme Court that really kind of illustrates that as well. Now the clip says this: "Thus the question presented here is really this. Did the court mean what it said in Bruen, and if it did, will the court allow the very same state that nullified the right to carry through its unconstitutional good cause requirement to achieve the same result through other equally suspect methods?" So that's really what's at stake here, isn't it? It's the Bruen decision. If the Supreme Court decides not to stand up for the Bruen decision, then there's no longer any weight behind the Bruen decision. It won't hold any water in court, and states will decide to just simply ignore it, because if the Supreme Court's not going to stand up for it, nobody else will either. And that means that states like New York and California will will be able to do what they want and simply ignore Supreme Court precedent because they know that the Supreme Court doesn't even believe in their own decision. So they'll continue to do things like change good cause or just cause into good moral character in order to get around things. So that's kind of what's at stake here. It's the actual Bruen decision. So this is a major case, and we're going to be following it closely. Hopefully, once it gets back up to the Supreme Court, they'll end up taking it. But again, it is very disappointing that the Supreme Court, after a GVR, decided to deny Antonyuk. This is, in my mind, regardless if it's interlocutory or not, a terrible decision by the Supreme Court, and just one more way that they've kind of pushed the Second Amendment to the side and treated it like a second-class right. Because if this was a First Amendment case or any other amendment that they actually like, I assume they would have taken it. Regardless, I wanted to let you guys know about that today. It's a very disappointing day. And if you were wondering what's going on with Snope or Ocean State, that was again pushed off until, well, it wasn't granted, it wasn't denied. We're assuming that it has been pushed off until conference next week. We'll find out a little bit later on today. So again, no word on Snope or Ocean State. So I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. Take care.